Everybody, it's Felisa, and today's going to be another entry into Spotlight Sunday, where I highlight cases of the missing, lost, and endangered, particularly those of African American women. Today's story is going to be a compilation of several sources, including charlieproject.org. I always encourage you guys to go over and take a look at that website, and if you find it helpful or useful in any way, please consider making a donation to Megan, who does a yeoman's job of compiling all of these cases and presenting them for awareness. Today's case is going to be on Stevie Bates, who went missing from New York City in April of 2012. Her classification is endangered missing. Her date of birth is listed as 12/29/1992. She was 19 years old when she was last seen. Her height is 5'6". Her weight is 115. She was last seen wearing a 3/4 length jacket, dark color skinny pants, canvas sneakers. She wore a pearl necklace, a thin handmade bracelet, and she had several body piercings, including a nose stud, a gold tongue ring, and a silver navel ring with a 2-inch chain. She was carrying a small purse with a long shoulder strap. It is noted that Stevie suffered from depression and anxiety and also claustrophobia at the time that she went missing. She is described as an African American female, and her hair was styled in dreadlocks, shoulder length, and dyed blonde. Stevie was last seen traveling on Greyhound from Hot Springs, Arkansas to New York City in April 2012. She spoke to her mother at a layover stop in Pittsburgh on April the 27th. She said that she planned to meet her ex-boyfriend in Brooklyn after arriving in the city. At 9 a.m. on April the 27th, she arrived in Manhattan and her image was captured on surveillance cameras. She was last seen walking down 8th Street, and she has never been heard from again. Stevie's mother stated that she had difficulty reporting her daughter missing because no one wanted to claim jurisdiction over her case. The NYPD referred her to the Port Authority, who referred her to Arkansas, who referred her to Pennsylvania, who referred her back to the Port Authority, and they referred her back to the NYPD. I want to push pause here because, like I said, I did review several articles, and there's no level of emotion that I can insert here that accurately conveys how just done I was with all of the hoops that this poor mother had to jump through just to report her daughter missing. This was literally a round and round the flagpole experience, and my heart was just broken for her because it should not have been this difficult, especially during her time of stress and duress and being frantic looking for her daughter, only to be rebuffed and turned away at every single turn, and being prevented from not only reporting her missing so that law enforcement could start the work of finding her, but law enforcement could start the work of finding evidence and, preserving that evidence. There was a whole window of time that was missed because no one wanted to take this report. So, Miss Vivian, if you are listening, my heart is just broken for you, and I'm sorry that you had to endure that. Anyway, moving on in the story. Eventually, Yonkers did take this report, and that was because Stevie's mother is a Yonkers resident. Even though she was last seen in New York City and her last known address was with her sister in Brooklyn. The family does report that it's uncharacteristic of Stevie to leave without warning or to be out of touch with her mother. She graduated from the Bronx High School of Science, which is one of the best science-centered high schools in the country, and she got a full scholarship to the University of Arizona, but she had decided not to attend. She wound up attending Hunter College in Manhattan in 2011, but she didn't register for the spring of 2012 and was reapplying to colleges for the fall. She was interested in studying architecture. It was reported that Stevie had been heavily involved in the Occupy Wall Street movement in the autumn of 2012. She was living in a tent in the city park for 3 months, and her mother said that her personality seemed to change after 2 of her friends died suddenly. She bleached and dreadlocked her hair, and she neglected her personal hygiene and became distant from her family. But she did seem to kind of rally and make the turn for the better after she enrolled at Hunter College. The disappearance around, or the circumstances around her disappearance are unclear, and authorities have said that they have not been able to find evidence of foul play, but her family is concerned for her safety. Now, the Charlie Project description does say that she may be in the Oakland, California area, but I couldn't figure out why they said that, but I'm going to present it and say it because it's located there. And it was also comical to me. I'm sorry, not comical in a funny way, but comical just like what? That authorities can find no evidence of foul play. I mean, considering that this poor mother was given the absolute and complete runaround from even being able to file a report, like what evidence that were you even looking for? Nobody wanted to take this case. And so I think that there was a huge window of opportunity that was lost as they were kicking the can down the road and trying to figure out who was going to be able to stall the longest and who was going to have to take this report. And I think that it was reported in one of the articles that when Yonkers finally did take this case, it was very little investigation. Now, for their part, they said that they were short-staffed and they didn't have enough, hands on deck and, all that kind of thing, which may be true. I know that there are a lot of police departments that are short-staffed, and I don't want to suggest that that can't be a thing. But, even with being short-staffed, there was still a window of opportunity that was completely missed for Stevie and for her mother. And I think that there may have been some crucial information that may have been able to be gathered in that first 24 to 48 hours as opposed to the weeks that it took for her to be able to file this case. Now, I will say that Stevie's mom, her name is Vivian, has a dedicated website for her, and I'm going to link that below so that you can go in and read what she has to say. There hasn't been any updates from what I can see since 2013, and that just may be that there hasn't been any updates, and it may just be too painful to continue to come on here and update the site when there hasn't been any changes or any sightings. But these are the words of Vivian Jones, Stevie's mother, and this is her narrative. So I'm going to read this to you, and I will link the link below, like I said, and I encourage you to go and take a look at the site and read some of the archived entries that she has on here. So she said on April 26, 2012, Stevie was returning from a cross-country trip, traveling alone by Greyhound bus to New York City from Hot Springs, Arkansas. I last spoke with her at 7:52 p.m. on April the 27th, 2012, while she was at a layover bus stop in Pennsylvania. I was able to view surveillance camera at New York Port Authority, which showed her coming up the escalator from the Greyhound bus at 8:51 a.m. and walking downtown on 8th Avenue from 42nd Street on April 28, 2012. Stevie has a very distinct look of shoulder-length hair that is dyed blonde and in dreadlocks. When I last spoke to Stevie on 4/27, she specifically told me that when she arrived in NYC, she would stop in Brooklyn to meet up with her ex-boyfriend, Brandon Klosterman, and come to the house the next day. I have not heard from or seen her since. None of her friends have seen her. She's had no activity on Facebook since April 25th, 2012, when she had a Facebook conversation with her ex-boyfriend, who she would be meeting up with in Brooklyn as soon as she arrived in NYC. Her other conversations on Facebook were with her best friend, who she made plans to meet up with for spring break, and a few other high school friends. The friend she was to meet up with claimed he hadn't seen her since before she left NYC on April 19, 2012 to begin her travels. She has not had any activity on her card since April 26, 2012. Stevie never goes without calling me. And then she goes on to talk about her daughter's last known and documented address, who she was living with, and that was with her sister, where the mother was living, what her thoughts are on the matter. And it's quite extensive, so I don't want to go, deep into the weeds with it, but I encourage you to go and take a look at it because she does lay out a lot of information that's not contained in any other articles anywhere else because, as her mother, she has information that no one else would be privileged to. I will say this, that whatever happened to Stevie happened quickly. It's just amazing that she would be able to, arrive in New York. She clearly got to her final destination. She walked out onto 8th Street and then she just promptly disappeared. So, you have to wonder, did she place a phone call? Was she picked up? Did she have a prearranged ride when she got to New York and she just got in a vehicle with someone and something happened? Was she on foot and experienced an episode? I will say that or will reference the Charlie Project, where it was said that she had difficulty after she lost a couple of friends and her hygiene went lacking, and she just seemed to change and pull away. Those are all classic signs of depression, and that's the way that it manifests. So that's not surprising to me, but her mother did say that she rallied when she started to go to college, and it seemed like she was coming to grips with it all. So even if she were depressed, I don't know that this would be, the way that she would choose to disappear, because honestly, she could have just walked away while she was in Pennsylvania, or she could have just walked away when she was in Arkansas. Why take the long bus ride, from Arkansas to New York only to disappear? Like, that doesn't make sense. I know that stranger things have happened and it's not as if it couldn't happen, but that just doesn't seem probable to me. I mean, it's possible, but it just doesn't seem probable to me that she would come all of that way, get home literally, and then just choose to deliberately vanish. I think that the best guess, and the best kind of conclusion that we can come in this story is that someone was waiting to pick her up, or she called someone to pick her up, and whoever that person was clearly is the last known person to be with her, know her whereabouts, and probably had something nefarious happen to her. And that is the saddest and the most heart-wrenching thing about all of this. At any rate, I do want to see if I can try and link the surveillance video. If I can, I'll insert it here. If I can't, then I will leave a link for you to view that. You do see Stevie coming up the escalator, and she appears to think about going further up the escalator, and then she turns around and she walks out of view. But it's very clear that she arrived in New York City on that day. And once she emerged onto 8th Street, we have no idea what happened to her. If you have any information about the whereabouts or the disappearance of Stevie Danielle Bates, please contact authorities. I will leave the information for you below. Any tip helps. If you saw someone on that day that seemed odd, out of sorts, perhaps they weren't, there was just something off about it and you can't place it, and maybe at the time you thought you were just overthinking, but now something is nagging at you, please call the New York City Police. I'm sure that they would appreciate having a tip. Hopefully they'll appreciate having a tip and they'll be able to act on it. Thank you so much for viewing this video, and I appreciate your respect and love in the comments. Please keep in mind that Stevie's family and loved ones are still searching for her, and as such your commentary may be viewed by them, and I just ask that you be respectful as you engage and have commentary if you have commentary. But above all, I'm just hoping that if anyone has any information that you will come forward so that we can bring Stevie home. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.